Blood Warlock, Succubus Partner in the Apocalypse. Chapter 12, Meeting and Plans. Hearing the sound coming from outside, Xietain and Lilith stood in silence for a moment before he walked to the door and opened it without saying a word. Standing on the other side was a female student who, though not a great beauty, was considered quite pretty. However, her expression at the moment was rather haggard, and the fear in her eyes made her look quite miserable. The student seemed surprised at the sudden appearance of Xietain, who had opened the door with a bang. She unconsciously looked inside the room, and when she saw the mess inside was shocked. The place was a mess with splinters of wood everywhere, as if a hurricane had hit there. "Do you need anything?" Xietain asked as he looked at the girl 1 or 2 years younger than him. Sorry." The girl apologized for something that Xietain didn't understand and continued quickly. "Big brother Bai, some of the teachers, big sister Shangguan, big brother Chen, and the rest are about to have a meeting to decide what to do next, therefore they would like you to participate as well." This student's name was Kai Jingyi, and before the world changed she was a student of international relations. She was very smart about human relationships and emotions. Now that everything changed, Kai Jingyi was also clear that she would be more likely to survive by following someone powerful. At the same time, it was essential to be careful not to offend anyone, because the rules would not necessarily remain the same as before. Hearing her words, Xietain was silent for a moment before nodding. "All right. Thank you for informing me. I'll be there in a moment." He was not surprised that the girl in front of him knew his name. After all, he had worked. It was only natural that someone would start spreading his name around, especially those people whose lives he had saved. Kai Jingyi quickly excused herself and left. She could sense that the young man's mood before her was not particularly good, so she was worried about saying the wrong word. Before Xietain could say anything, Lilith advised, "Xietain, remember that the world you live in has changed and will no longer be what it once was. Although it might not be so obvious now, since it is only the beginning of a new era, gradually people will change. Be careful of the people around you, or your death might not be caused by a monster or mutated plant." Xietain looked at her silently, pondering her words. After several seconds, he nodded slowly and thanked. "Thank you for your advice. I will remember it." Lilith threw him a flying kiss and gave him a charming smile in response. Xietain didn't dare look at her for too long and quickly closed the door behind him as he walked away in the direction of the basketball court. At his reaction, Lilith giggled softly, causing her ample breasts to sway invitingly. Fortunately or unfortunately, there was no man to witness such a wonderful but at the same time dangerous spectacle. After Xietan's nerves calmed down and the tension he felt on his body due to the constant dangers and seemingly endless battles, he finally paid more attention to the people around him and easily noticed many things on his way to the basketball court. Most of the people, regardless of whether they were male or female, teachers or students, had eyes filled with apprehension and looked at their surroundings with constant vigilance. Some of them even had signs of insanity, clutching their hair tightly and muttering incoherent things before they started laughing out loud as if something funny had happened. Seeing all this, Xietain couldn't help but agree with the advice Lilith had given him before. Unconsciously, he lifted his guard a notch higher, not wanting one of these people to stab him in the back. Xietain had no intention of dying, let alone dying by the hands of another human. As he approached a corner far away from the rest, Xietain saw Shangguan Bing Shui, Chen He, Peng Liang, as well as 4 teachers, 3 men and 1 woman. The woman was Jia Jiao, whom Xietain had rescued earlier. Seeing him approaching, the group of 7 people stopped their conversation and looked at him with different emotions: gratitude, curiosity, indifference, kindness, mistrust, and many other emotions coming from different people. When he finally joined the group, Liang Peng smiled carelessly and greeted him casually. "Yo. Little brother Xietain." "Hey." Xietain greeted him back with a brief nod. Although Liang Peng possessed terrifying strength, his thoughts seemed to be too simple. Now that teachers with the ability to think without being affected by the fear as well as people capable of fighting are here, let's start this meeting. Shangguan Bing Shui did not dawdle and immediately went to the point. She also did not give another glance to Xietain, nor did she say anything about him keeping a room for himself. Currently there were many people sleeping in the same place, and although they were not crowded together, it was definitely not as comfortable as having a private place to themselves. Even Shangguan Bingshui and the rest had no such benefit. Many people were naturally dissatisfied with him taking such a large place for himself. It was just that no one dared to express it after witnessing his strength or hearing about it. As for Shangguan Bingshui, she simply didn't care. Wait a moment. Bai Zemin stopped her before she continued. Shangguan Bingshui frowned slightly but said nothing and simply looked at him silently, waiting for his next words. If you want to gather people with the courage to fight and some ability, Vice President Lian Sun should be here too. Bai Zemin pointed out. Oh? Shangguan Bingshui's beautiful blue eyes had a strange glint in them when she heard his words. She looked in the direction of where Lian Sun stood and seeing him smile charmingly at her filled her heart with disgust. I don't think that's necessary. Shangguan Bingshui said coldly. Her tone contained a hint of mockery and disdain as she said, he even hid from me that he could fight those creatures, which means he is a coward. Such a person, instead of helping, will only become a burden in times of need. Bai Zemin simply shrugged his shoulders and did not comment any further. Then, let's continue. Shangguan Bingshui frowned and explained her concerns. Currently, the storm is quite fierce. As each of us headed in this direction, saving other people in the process, it was inevitable that we and the others would get wet. Indeed. Currently, everyone was shivering with cold and many people were sneezing with signs of possible colds. With their clothes completely wet and the cold weather, the body temperature had plummeted all at once and the arrival of illnesses was only a matter of time. Even Shangguan Bingshui's white dress was soaked and clung tightly to her seductive body. This had attracted the attention of the local men regardless of whether he was a teacher or a student. Even the handsome and kind Chen, he could not help but sneak several glances at her secretly. Shangguan Bingshui continued, at this rate, the arrival of illnesses like influenza and fever is only a matter of time. At this moment we don't even know exactly the situation of the world outside the university. I tried to communicate with my family but apparently there is some kind of problem with the signal. Chen He nodded, I also tried to communicate with my family but got no results. Hearing their words, Bai Zemin's eyes lit up imperceptibly. Since they had the same problem, Lilith's words were probably real and, although he didn't know if his family was alive, hope burned fervently. Then, I would like to form different teams to perform different tasks. Shangguan Bingshui finally pointed out her real purpose. One team will be in charge of searching for clothes from the male dormitory and the female dormitory, saving the people who are still alive in the process. Another team will be in charge of going to the university pharmacy in search of cold medicine, fever medicine, and whatever else is possible. Chen He added, in the cafeteria, Bai Zemin found enough food to feed more than 100 people for a week. Even if we add more people, the rations should be able to last about 3 days. That's more than enough time for the army and police to make their move. Hearing his words, almost everyone let out a small sigh of relief. Even if the zombies were many, or even if those strange mutated creatures were powerful, in the face of the power of modern firearms they were nothing to fear. Only Bai Zemin and Shangguan Bingshui had indifferent expressions and kept their own thoughts to themselves. Seeing that no one had anything against her words, Shangguan Bingshui nodded and continued, now we should form teams and divide tasks. The teams should be formed in the best possible way to avoid unnecessary losses. Wait a moment. I'd like to move alone.